from now won't even notice or care. Laura's example was that she had bought this wasn't necessarily change, but this is dealing with disappointment early on in something. She had ordered a Kindle cover and it arrived scratched. And so she thought, well, I could just send it back, but also it's going to get scratched anyway, and who cares? And I can move on with my life and do something else by just keeping this Kindle cover that's scratched. You're like wrinkling your nose. You disagree with her on that, maybe.
I think there's certain things where I guess what I was reflecting on is like, as I've gotten older, I don't want to have as many battles.
Yeah.
I think as I've gotten older, I think there's a few things, but one, I don't want to have as many battles because it takes a lot of energy energy away from other things I could be using it on, like more fun things or with friends or reading or activities. And the second thing that I was thinking about is like, I do think it's very powerful to make decisions just on anything, just deciding. And it's almost like a muscle and a skill where like the more you're starting to make decisions and accepting it and not like back and forth. And I do that. I mean, I think we all do, but I do it. And the more I'm like, this is it, and I'm accepting it, and it's done, it just almost is like a muscle that I start getting better. I'm like, well, I made that decision. I didn't like how this was, so now I'm going to I bought a Jag. I'm leasing a Jag. And like literally I had buyer's remorse before I even got it. And then I got it and I was like...
You're leasing a what?
Like a Jaguar.
A Jaguar.
Like this nice convertible.
Oh, okay. And you said a jet. No. I was like, I missed out on something.
Well, I want to talk about, what did you say? Change allocation? What's the word you used earlier?
I don't know.
You just said...
like a change bias.
No, you said change... I don't know if you have to, when you replay and listen to your voice naked. But you had to change allocation. So I'll come back. We can tell the Jags in a bit, but like I think the main thing is one, making decisions is powerful. Learning from the decisions, like the Jag. Now I'm like, look, I should have just like test drove it for like a weekend versus committing fully to it.
I call it like prototyping.
It should have been a tinier bite. Yes.
I've done it like the first time when I was becoming an adult and decided, I need to get a sport jacket. I need to have a sport coat or something. But if you've never worn one, you don't know anything about it. You know nothing about it. And so I prototyped it. I went to a thrift store and got one that wasn't very good. I got like a whole bunch of different ones. They were $5 and they were ugly and crappy, but I at least got to know what I wanted. So when it was time to buy a nicer one, I was ready. I understood the decisions behind it.
You should have test drove it, pun intended.
Yeah.
But so I think just to reiterate, because I think for me mostly, I'm learning it. Maybe you guys are learning it too, but I'll definitely take this away. I think coming back to the house and the car and things in the future that I decide on, I think knowing that there will be, what did you say, a change allocation?
I don't even remember.
I don't know what it was exactly, but it was basically the fringe of a change allocation where that like, I think when we make the changes that change our life and grow our life are going to be uncomfortable because it's different.
Yes.
Right? Because you are adjusting from what you are comfortable and normal. Like think about when you go on vacation. How many times have you gone on vacation where like, this is my market? This is where I'm going to have breakfasts. This is where I'm going to go to the pool. And you actually create this instant routine because you want that consistency and that repetition that you're used to in life.
Yes.
But you're like, oh no, I have to get to this right away. And so I think accounting for some change discomfort in your decisions, like, hey, so with the house, like, I should have said, hey, and my buddy Adam Gilbert from mybodytutor.com, one of my good friends who does health coaching, so check out My Body Tutor. He's like, dog, give it 2 weeks and then just see how you feel. And after 2 weeks, I was like, Trader Joe's is downstairs. There's a grill. There's a pool. There's like a treadmill that I can use all the time that's really convenient. It's walkable to a lot of the things. I love that it's new. And the size, it's not forever. And that's what I started. I think I would have said, hey, take 2 weeks with it and recognize that any change is going to be a little uncomfortable. It's been interesting to observe that moving forward with other things in my life.
It reminds me of when I was a kid and I would really want a toy. And my mom would say, wait 2 weeks and if you still want the toy, then maybe.
Yeah.
Of course I would forget.
So maybe that's an interesting thing. So for any decision that you're either going to be making or you've had made, like maybe give a 2 week change allocation, a 2 week change buffer to understand or accept or recognize whether this is going to be a change that you should be doing or you regret doing.
And it's a skill. It's a thing that you can get used to. Like, I'm in the middle of an international move. The first time that I did a mini life and I went to Buenos Aires for 6 weeks, like I just about had a nervous breakdown at the airport. I couldn't believe I was leaving my apartment for 6 weeks. Somebody else was going to be living there. I'm going to be on a different continent. And like now I do that stuff all the time and it's not really much of a big deal. Like I still experience discomfort in the process, but I've just learned to allow it to be part of the process.
I think it's also going towards it, right? So actually practicing change and practicing new things. So like for me, I'm learning Hebrew, which means I'm starting from the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like Drake. I'm like starting from the bottom, now I'm Hebrew, right? And it's a new thing and I have to like, and it's uncomfortable. Or I was talking with Neville today. He went to a Zoroastrian conference. It's basically a Zoroastrian like makeout session. So it's a chance for other Zoroastrians to like meet other ones.
It's a religion.
It's a religion for Indian people. They're like the Persians of India. But it's a chance for them to like basically get married and like hook up. And it was one of those things where I was talking about it with like a Jewish one because I am single now. And so he's like, it's one of these things where you're like, I don't want to go. It's going to be uncomfortable. I don't really want to do it. What else can I do that day? And then you go, because there's like a Jewish one this weekend that I'm not in town for, but I normally just avoid.
Yeah.
But it's one of these things where I think if I go into it, do it, I'd be like, oh my God, that was so much fun. And like I met such cool people and I had such a good time. But I think it's like going into the things that you maybe have a little bit of hesitation around. Right? At least I don't like the word try necessarily, but at least going and doing once in a while to kind of keep practicing that change or that discomfort. Because a lot of the growth in life, like I always reflect on the gym because I go to the gym often, is that your body does not change if you do the same weights over and over. Yeah. The change in your body only happens when you're doing something different. Either maybe less weights, more reps, or like way heavier weight and less reps.
And sometimes the resistance you feel to doing a thing, I've learned to think of it as like, oh, because that resistance is there, that must mean that I want this thing, right? Like if you've ever thought about making a big purchase that you're not sure, it's kind of like a lot of money, but you still want it and it keeps persisting with you.
Yes.
And then eventually you go ahead and make the purchase and maybe you experience a little bit of buyer's remorse for a little bit of time, but then as time goes on, you're like, I'm so glad that I bought this thing. And it's because you had that because that resistance was there, that feeling of discomfort was there, that was just you telling yourself that you wanted this.
There's something there with that. I mean, like Adam always says, like discomfort is your compass.
Yeah.
And I think there's something there. Well, I don't want to always be uncomfortable, right? Like I don't need someone putting their hand up my butt. Like I'm pretty confident I don't need that discomfort to grow. But I think with other things, it's like knowing an idea of where you want to be in the future and then what stuff today, that might be uncomfortable will help you get to that point. So.
Well, it can give you a little bit of a dopamine hit if you have some sort of a goal in mind to think about as you work towards it.